Welcome to Get Serious. Ready to jump in today. This'll for sure be the final note review podcast from that Hormozi affiliate workshop that I went to. Again, never took more notes at a live event compared to this one. It was only one day. Imagine if it was far more than that. Again, the setup was 100 of us entrepreneurs in for 13 straight hours with Alex Hormozi, various fireside chats with his top 10 affiliates, and then open mic audience Q&A here. So I'll eventually just make a full playlist of all the podcasts that I did across the Hormozi takeaways, because I think it's been a little bit disjointed, with other topics coming up here, but excited to wrap this one up. So obviously key point for any business is you have to have sales, right? Well, it really breaks down. Hormozi will point this out too. It's marketing, sales, and delivery / ops. You can kind of say they're the same thing depending on your exact definition, and how that boils down to different KPIs that you would track within your business. Marketing can relate well to CAC, cost to acquire customer. Your sales capabilities will relate to your conversions, and then your ability to deliver will relate, or at least correlate, to your LTV, your lifetime value of your customer. So any business in the world needs elements of those three. Otherwise, you won't have a business. Try to even, steel man that argument, or try to come up, play devil's advocate, try to come up with an example of a business that doesn't need some form of marketing, sales, and ability to deliver. I'm racking my brain. I've never thought of one prior. Maybe you have an example. You can let me know. But focusing on that second piece, the sales piece, obviously some folks will be more talented in some areas or not. But, Hormozi is very adamant that sales is a trainable skill. Effectively, every single human being, assuming you have some capacity with understanding and speaking a certain language, you'll have the ability to sell, and that it is just an eminently trainable skill just because it can be scripted so well. You think of certain industries or jobs or careers that might be more talent oriented. You can think of professional sports, for instance. Yeah, you can train people in various sports. Some people are just going to have like a natural genetic advantage, or perhaps mentally just being able to deal with the pain and the rigor and boredom, frankly, more. Or musicians, or maybe like theoretical physics or math equations. Though on the math side, I think AI is coming in quickly to solve some very difficult equations here. So you can think of examples where inherent talent will kind of create a larger delta within, again, certain skill sets. But sales is largely just how much volume and how many reps you're going to put in. Yeah, some folks are going to be more charismatic. They're, they might be more aesthetically pleasing. Like all of this comes into play. But when you can teach people a script and you can tell them to keep getting the reps in, you can just train a team of salesmen or saleswomen. Like, that is just the point to keep in mind. Sales is trainable. And that's what Hormozi points it out too. It's like they just force their team to just nail the process and let the script breathe through them. Where he's saying, and they have one of the best sales teams in the world. When you think about the amount of transactions that they're getting in and the amount of cash flow. I was just on a weekly mastermind meeting with Callan and her team, and they were at a 2-day event with Hormozi and ended up spending over $100,000 on kind of the various upsells to work directly with Alex. And the highest upsell is you're basically paying $100,000, or really, if you don't get the second or the mid-tier upsell, which they also paid for, which is like to work directly with his team of directors. It's like $135,000 just to work with Alex for a day, but that's split with 9 other entrepreneurs. You only get 45 minutes of direct one-on-one feedback with Alex when he considers your business. Like just, I mean, the amount per hour. I mean, it's over $100,000 per hour that's getting charged there. Yeah, you can pick up the other stuff from the other entrepreneurs that are there. It might have similar items, similar to how the fireside chats were structured at this affiliate event. Nevertheless, just, tremendous salesmanship. And, Callan was remarking on just how much research the ACQ team did on everybody who was attending even the initial workshop. They were checking like social profiles, knew about your pets and so forth, and where you're coming from, like just warming you up a lot, and just razor sharp understanding. Okay, yeah, we're going to text the attendees in the morning here, and they had wired mics in their ears so they can kind of communicate real time to see where along the sales process each potential lead was. Really hardcore in terms of trying to land conversions here. But again, all of that is just trained. A lot of those folks working in those roles are much younger, maybe like just coming out of college or similar. Again, they train every day. Their closers train every day. Their director teams, they train every single day. I mean, it's similar to how in the land business, like you got to get the reps in. Like a day where I don't review, at least one land deal, like I can notice I get a little bit of rust. You got to get the volume in, no matter the thousands, tens of thousands of properties that I've looked at across the US over a half decade at this point. If you're not continuing to train, like you're just going to get rusty. So again, name of the game, keep training your skills, practice out every single day. And so again, if you're not doing that, or if you're not having your team trying to role play or let the script breathe, like they're not just reading off a script, but they know they have it fully memorized out so they can spend more time listening rather than speaking on calls. That's absolutely critical. That's the only way you're going to survive, or let alone thrive, within an economy like this. And then somebody else was asking about, if you're doing ads, kind of how much to consider, how often do you need to change up copy or creative and so forth. And Alex, again, was really meant like, this is a volume game. Like they put out so much content. He says, and then not, people can say, yeah, is it ad content or just, organic content creation? Yeah, talk about it from creative, like an ad perspective. And Hormozi was just saying, you've got to be doing at least 100 new ads per week. It could be subtle variations here and there, split between, images, videos, carousels, what have you, but 100 different pieces of creative each and every week. Like that is just a tremendous amount of volume. Like folks might create like 5 and try to make those ads last for months, and some can really perform well for a while. But it's, again, industry, across any type of business, where if you're not continuing to experiment and try new things and find what's fresh and what's working, like you're inevitably going to be outcompeted here. So again, pure volume game to keep in mind. And so, at the end of this affiliate workshop, I mean, they're throwing up just a couple of slides here. Like a lot of us were just like shell shocked. I mean, again, it was not like a feel good conference here. Hormozi remarked on that number of times, like, yeah, I'm sure I could boost my NPS scores just by saying, oh yeah, follow your passion, just keep doing what you're doing. You're going to figure it out. Like that's what we all want to hear. That strokes the ego. But Hormozi was just going, and it's like, yeah, you might not be good. Like your product might not be good enough. You might not know how to scale past the number your business is currently at. Like, those are hard things to hear. Maybe you can just kind of like passively listen to this here, like, yeah, whatever. It's another entrepreneur, but when like it's directed towards you, or especially in front of 100 other people, that's a hard thing to actually sit with. And so at the end of this, they were like, okay, what are you guys actually going to do? You just spent 13 straight hours here with one of the best entrepreneurs in the world. Are you just going to like passively and consume this, or are you actually going to do anything? And if you can remember right from the start of this affiliate event, when I talked about probably within the first review episode of this, is like Hormozi was pointing out the Mozi 6, where it's just about doing more and more and more. Again, whether it's more from, okay, let me run models, money. Okay. I'm probably missing these. Now I even forgot. So it's like, okay, I got to review my own content here that I produced. Well, I mean, it's Hormozi's, right? But just repeating it back here. But the fundamental piece was from the Mosey 6 is just like being able to do more within your business. Like that's almost always the answer that will lead you to the next level. It's just you got to figure out which lever to actually pull there. This was the first one. Like you have to get your metrics right before anything, and meaning data effectively. And so what his team pointed out was like the more only works if you have a feedback process to get better. So this, ties directly into the metrics piece here because if you start trying to pull one of those levers to just do more within your business, but you're not actually tracking what's working. And again, like you might be rolling your eyes at this, but proper data and implementation and actually following what your dashboard is showing you, like very few businesses do that well, especially in the age of AI. And I just wrote about this in the Serious News newsletter, like the granularity of the data that we're going to need and have access to in the age of AI is just beyond anything that we've previously imagined as business owners. And so we just have to open our eyes up even more to, okay, how many signals can we possibly pick up, for our potential buyers? And we can say buyers as in, customers of our service, which, in this initial case, from the acquisition side could just be sellers of their own property. Like, how do you really pick up like the earliest possible signal that somebody is willing to sell their property? I mean, right now, like, you think, even the best operations out there, a lot of them are still just like relying on volume and just hitting people routinely. Yeah, sure, you can look at, does anybody owe any taxes, or they had some like airship issues, anything like that. But it's still mostly a spray and pray volume game type of approach here. So will there be ways to get a lot more sophisticated with seller targeting going forward, for instance, or potentially buyers here? So always you can just throw things up onto the MLS and kind of hope for the best. Again, be honest here. That's how a lot of land buying or selling works. Or can you really start to uncover a lot more pinpointed tactics and data that inform those tactics for how to actually sell properties in a more targeted manner? Like, how do we uncover that type of data? And if we're not collecting that and utilizing it to check our results, like we're not utilizing the feedback. So again, point being here, if you're going to do more in any direction, you need to be tracking what works here. Don't feel bad if you haven't been doing this or you've just been kind of winging it. Almost every business does, or they don't even know how to track the key data in the areas that they need to. So it's a constant work in progress. Like nobody has it perfect. And as soon as you get perfect, there's going to be increased capabilities for you to get even more refined. So food for thought. Another key piece here, what they ended on is that what I loved Hormozi pointing out is that the fastest way to make money is to sell the shovels, but the way to make the most money is to actually mine for gold. So, I mean, you can think about this in, all types of industries here. I mean, obviously gold mining was one. You always think, sell the shovels when people are going to mine. Those operators did great, but the ones who did the best were the ones who, maybe found a gold mine and found a way to commercialize it for routine mining over a period of decades. Those are the ones who created truly generational wealth. I think the name of the game too within the real estate side, the more control you have of a certain asset, and the earlier you get in on the process, like that's the true mining for gold. So if you acquire the raw land at a certain price, you do the value add, you do the development, and then chop up, maybe for a major subdivide or larger, potential development, you bring sewer into that. Like, I mean, you can kind of run through this from a real estate perspective. Like the earlier on you are in the process, the more you're mining for gold, because just the more value you're building up for the potential end use case. Whereas, selling shovels, you could be a surveyor for developments like that, or soil test engineer, like you can get cash flow really, really quickly and make consistent money. But are you going to make the most money compared to the underlying landowner who's doing the eventual full horizontal vertical development? No. Just always keep that in mind in regard to your model, is whether you're selling shovels or are you actually mining for gold. And it's okay to do both. The wealthiest people tend to have multiple streams of income here. So is there a way for you to take multiple bites at the apple? Some routes that are just not major inflections of cash into your bank account, but very consistent to keep the business running and allow you to take those bets that can do a generational wealth jump, or at least trending toward that. And then the final piece here, what his team was mentioning, and I did remark this within the newsletter, just reiterating that intelligence is the rate of learning. And what we can really define as learning is actually taking action, making decisions on what you have learned, and actually taking action on it. Otherwise, just any education may as well be entertainment if you're not actually doing anything with it. So I just really like that definition, and where, like from a mathematical perspective, intelligence can be, kind of the slope of the line here. So the more intelligent you are, the steeper the slope, because you're just having a greater rate of change by utilizing what you've actually been learning here. So that was their end question, is like, what will you do with what you've learned? I mean, you could say the same thing for these, podcast recaps here. Was it just like, oh yeah, kind of nodding your head along with everything Hormozi was feeding into us here? Or are you actually going to do something with it? What behavior are you going to change within your personal, professional life, or both, in order to hit the next level? So with that, I will end that recap for this Hormozi affiliate event. Hope you got as much out of it. Hearing, from secondhand from myself here, it was a true privilege. One of the best events I've ever been to in my life, and helping take us to the next level. So, and helped me with my own rate of learning. I had to ultimately decide whether I could run, two businesses, or have to make a tough cut and get back to the saddle on just one here. Obviously took the latter to push on Serious Land Capital. I wrote about that over the past couple weeks. So, having to follow my my own advice that I wrote down from that event here. So that is what we all have to do. With that in mind, seriousland.capital for any of your land funding needs. Subscribe and share, everybody. Looking forward to next time. Take care now. Bye.